Well, Tom Jenkins is the CEO at the European Tourism Association. I asked him about the impact this would have on Greece's tourism sector.
I think Greece actually did, no one did well in the pandemic, but Greece was actually, of all the destinations in Europe, Greece had a slightly less worse one than the other ones. They kept both their infection rates right down and were welcoming to visitors really throughout 2022 and to some extent 2021. So Greece didn't do that badly during the pandemic. I think it's also important to realise it's affecting three islands, three quite important islands in Greece. It's not affecting the mainland, and it's not affecting the other 5,900 odd islands that there are in Greece. So it's very traumatic for those affected. It's significant for the holiday makers in those islands, but it's not that dramatic if you look at Greece as a whole.
But nevertheless, people potentially cancelling their holidays because they're worried about it. Some flights not going to and from, and it must nevertheless have an effect on the tourism industry in places like Rhodes and Corfu.
Oh, no, if you've got a wildfire, this is not good for tourism. I'm not for one moment pretending it, but all I'm emphasising is that this is a very localised problem. I'm not for one moment questioning that if you've got a holiday booked in Rhodes, Kea or Corfu, you will be looking very carefully at what the situation is. And if you're there, you're either not affected, because there are parts of these islands which are not affected, or you're being evacuated. And I do not for one moment question the severity of that. All I'm stressing is that as a whole, Greece, this is one portion of Greece, one small portion of Greece.
Do you think, though, that this will have an effect on where people choose to holiday, both later this year and in the future?
Well, the amazing thing about the temperatures that we're seeing in the Mediterranean, apart from the extraordinary heat, is the fact that it doesn't appear to have too much impact on demand. I think that's partly because people who had booked to go to Greece and indeed the Mediterranean in July were expecting heat. They probably weren't expecting quite as much heat as they're getting at the moment. But at the moment, demand's not affected. It will be affected, do not get me wrong, for the affected areas which are being hit by wildfires. But I don't see any change in demand. But it's early days, because it's only been occurring over the last 4 to 5 days or so.
So how does the tourism industry mitigate against something like this? What kind of protections in place for businesses and holidaymakers?
Well, you can't, is the short answer. All you can do is that if such a catastrophe occurs, make sure that you've got your emergency procedures in place. And I'm pleased to say that so far that we haven't had any reports of any deaths or any injuries from this. Huge quantities of inconvenience, but this is a wildfire. This causes problems, but at the moment, the industry seems to be responding to it.